West Virginia legislature saying, we want the Public Service Commission to come to Jefferson County. They'll come to Jefferson County. They came before, and I am helping all the commissioners to work with me, push and pull and whatever it takes to get the Public Service Commission to be here in Jefferson County and listen to the people like they should be. The last thing I want to say is I listened to all those complaints, and I heard many of those complaints that I think rise to the level that should be formally lodged with the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission, and I'll ask Delegate Skinner if I'm not correct, but I believe that if you file a complaint with the Public Service Commission, they have 60 days to look at your complaint and give you a written, basically a written opinion of where they are on that issue. So they do have some responsibility to the consumers and the ratepayers. If we don't send them complaints, I heard someone say, well, they won't talk back to you. Well, I'll tell you what, send it anyway. Ask for the complaint form, insist that you get the complaint form, and send it anyway, because if you do nothing, then you get nothing. But we've got to all get together. I think the commission has to do what we can do, the delegates and senators need to do what they can do, and the individual consumers need to do what they can do. But we all need to work together to try to get some resolution to this egregious situation.
And I am moving on. I hope I've been hearing from one of the state delegations.
Well, I just wanted to echo what my fellow Commissioner Dale said as well. We did pass the resolution, but I would say that in the past, the County Commission has actually provided legal counsel in helps of helping people fight PATH, helping people fight water increases that people were worried about in a few years. We actually went the extra step and got legal staff involved to help at the state level, and I'm more than willing to consider that again, because this is just not right. I mean, I've heard stories, but the stories tonight were even worse than the stories I've heard before. So we did invite, we asked that First Energy come to the County Commission to explain about the Harrisonburg PATH plant, and we're told that they couldn't come because it's before the PSC. So they refused our invitation to come to the Jefferson County Commission and explain what was going on. And so in conclusion, after hearing tonight, the only thing I can say is First Energy might be first in the hearts of their stockholders, but they are last in the hearts of their customers.
I would like to observe that actually First Energy had somebody at the Morgan County Commission speak about the Harrison plant transfer last Thursday. Just telling you. So I think that Jefferson County, we're getting a reputation of troublemakers. All right. Now, who else would like to speak? Anybody? Okay. And Stephen, you better.
Thank you. What an honor it is to be here today. First off, let me say I'm a little under the weather, so I hope everybody can hear me. I think we're a little, all of us are a little under the weather today after hearing this. First off, though, we need to thank the NAACP for allowing us to do this and bring our community together. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your emails that I've been receiving, phone calls, and for taking the first step with us and being here together tonight as not only a community, but as friends and neighbors and families. I want to thank you for sharing your personal stories. When I look across the room and heard from the gentleman who just pleaded with us for help, it's endearing because his wife is actually one of my high school classmates, and I hope I can say that publicly. But as a legislator, we often have the hard job of holding people accountable. And I can tell you, and this is my pledge and promise tonight, that we are going to hold these folks accountable. Back in March, when we were in during session, we actually started receiving a number of emails and calls to our offices in the middle of session, and it was the hustle and bustle of the legislative season. But we took time out of our busy schedules actually to call our House delegation meeting with Delegate Skinner and Delegate Barrett and myself, and sat down with First Energy representatives about 2 hours after we called the meeting. And they actually were very receptive at that juncture. We had a number of emails that we could point to, and within about 24 hours, we were able to follow up with all of our constituents who had questions and concerns at that time. At that time, however, we did not know that this was a systemic issue. We had no idea that hundreds, if not thousands, of our constituents across the Eastern Panhandle were involved in such horrific, burdensome complaints. And so I can tell you that I am even more aggravated than I was then tonight sitting in this room. I counted out of the 3 pages of notes I took just now that 10 of you are my constituents right here in Charlestown. Actually, some of you are my neighbors in my subdivision. So I can tell you I will not only be holding them accountable, but I will be holding them responsible. We heard tonight safety issues, which I hadn't heard before. We heard billing discrepancies. We heard a lack of transparency, a lack of response, a lack of timeliness, meter discrepancies, a lack of manpower, and in my opinion, a lack of decency. And I frankly won't give a darn, if I may say this, if I ever get a campaign contribution from First Energy after hearing this. So I will be on the phone. Many of you know Charlene McGillum, who is their regional rep here in the Eastern Panhandle. I will be on the phone with her. Sandy Gray, who is their public affairs representative, who provided that letter, patience, to us today, has been and was that person who was following up with us quickly in Charleston. However, I do believe he is exiting the company. I'm not sure if that is the link there or has anything to do with this situation, but I will be making sure whomever follows in his footsteps in that position will know of our problems here in Jefferson County and the Eastern Panhandle. So that's my commitment to you as your legislator right here in Charlestown and Ransom. If you have comments, questions, complaints, concerns, situations you'd like to bring to my attention, I believe the more statistics that I can provide to all of these folks at not only First Energy but at the local level of Potomac Edison will be very helpful, and I'll be documenting them. So thank you very much.
We can even give you extras and you can give them to your neighbors and friends. And we have Delegate Skinner.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming here tonight. And I know that it wasn't easy for many of you to speak. We're talking about your lives and your day-to-day life is something that most people don't share, and I thank you for that. As Delegate Lawrence suggested, this started as a trickle, and the trickle has turned into something much different. And I hope that what we're seeing tonight is evidence of a ratepayer revolt. Simply unacceptable how First Energy and Potomac Edison has treated you. I'm going to show you something. This is a copy of what's called the tariff. That is the agreement the state of West Virginia works out with Potomac Edison. And this is the deal that they made to have the monopoly right to sell electricity to you. Okay? They set the rates, the energy rates, based on this, and their promises to what they're going to do. And let me tell you what they promised they would do. 2 things. 1, bills for service will be rendered by the company to the customer at regular intervals of 1 month in accordance with the rates selected applicable to the customer service. They're going to read at least every other month. That's their promise to you. And then the bills are going to be based on 30 days. Now, what I'm hearing, and we're starting to figure this out, how foul the stench is that some of your 30-day bills are actually 180-day bills compacted into 30-day bills. The other thing that they promise in reading the meter every other month is that they're going to supply the meter readers. And it wasn't really until tonight that I understood what was going on. We talk a lot in America about outsourcing and how we've outsourced half of the economy outside of the country. Well, you can't really do that with electricity because we have to take it to your house here. Well, guess what? They're outsourcing their job by forcing you all to do it. But guess what? The rates are based on them doing it. That's the deal that they made. This is simply unacceptable. Now, is this something that just happened out of the blue? One of the things and I want to thank Karen Patience for calling this to my attention. There's a case open right now in Maryland with Potomac Edison. Same thing. Here's a letter from last July from Potomac Edison to PSC in Maryland. And when you open it up, what do you find? You find all of the excuses of why they cannot read the meters every other month. Last July, that is full of promises that they fixed the problem and everything is going to be hunky-dory. And now we are over here in West Virginia with the same exact problem and the same exact excuses. I've asked the Public Service Commission to open a general investigation. That is what the County Commission has done. We can't force them to do it. We'll continue to ask them to do it. But what happens in terms of accountability is what we can start to do in the legislature later. Because that's one thing that they're not going to want to hear. That we're going to tell the PSC that they have to meet certain requirements, and that when we've got monopolies in the state of West Virginia who have shoddy business practices, that they can't act that way. You all, and I hesitate to say it, I think that what you all have been through is so unacceptable under the law as it is today that they've managed to fool us all. What's the end of it? And I don't know what form justice is going to take here, but I pledge to you I'm going to continue to fight for it.
Steve, did you want to talk to us?
Thank you, Patience. And thank you for your patience this evening. I'm Paul Espinosa, delegate from the 66th District. For those of you who may not be familiar with the 66th, it includes, I like Delegate Lawrence, heard a number of my constituents as you provided your heartfelt remarks this evening. But it does include a little bit of Shenandoah Junction, part of most of Kearneysville, Middleway, Leetown, Summit Point, Ripon, down into Myerstown, Cabletown, and the Shenandoah area. I, like my colleagues in the House, when the reports first came out about some of the building issues that customers had reported, I immediately reached out to my contacts with First Energy, same folks that Delegate Lawrence had referred to, and was assured that they would be responsive to the concern, that they acknowledged that there were billing issues associated with a change in billing system there. They also referred to some of the difficulties they had related to missed meter readings with the storm. But it's apparent from hearing the comments of you that I've heard here this evening that it does go beyond that. And what I would ask that you do is, particularly those folks that are in my district, but others as well, if you reached out to First Energy and you've made that good faith effort to get your bill resolved and you're not having success, I certainly would like to pledge my assistance. I've been advised that if I'll provide a name and address and a phone number,
that they will, Charlie Gillen, who is our local representative here, who I've found to be very, very responsive, she will ensure that she gets an answer, for you folks. So again, if that's something that I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to assist in that regard. As your county commissioners, our county commissioners have pointed out, and some of my colleagues in the legislature, many of these matters are, in fact, Public Service Commission regulated issues. But that doesn't mean that we as legislators can't help in holding them accountable, and certainly I'll be happy to do my part in ensuring that the Public Service Commission does look at these issues that you shared this evening, look at them seriously, and give them a thorough investigation. Also with regard to the issue regarding the sale or purchase of the coal-generated plant. Public Service Commission, of course, has the role in analyzing that sale. But I would certainly encourage you, and don't underestimate your power as you reach out and share your perspective on these issues. I certainly agree that it would be a lot easier if they were here as opposed to having to do it from a distance or in Charleston. But don't underestimate the power that you have to weigh in on this. And I would encourage each of you that do have concerns that you'd like to share regarding that acquisition, make your thoughts known, because I think the more people that do share those thoughts and perspective, the greater impact we'll have. So again, I thank the NAACP for hosting tonight's session, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Thank you.
Very briefly, I think George Rowland had that set after all that racket started at 9 o'clock to run Saturday. Very good time. When we started tonight, and obviously we've been in Charleston and up to our ears and home rule and gun bills and everything else, and didn't have this as an issue before this session. I've been home for a few hours. We've been home for roughly going on 4 weeks. That it doesn't matter whether the grocery store go to have my tires changed or whatever. I'm hearing these stories. There's certainly a lot of them tonight, and my heart goes out to each one of you. What we started with the letters that were read was, I think, was the single most disheartening thing that was presented here tonight, and I'll tell you why. Your protection against these shoddy practices is the Public Service Commission. The first letter was very brief from the background. They said, we're just not going to come. Well, I guess some of us might expect that. You might get that. It didn't surprise me. But the one from the Public Service Commission, I think, was 2 pages. Loaded with excuses about the background. That's not their job. And you see that contract that Delegate Skinner showed you is met. And clearly it's not being met. Now let me assure you, and I give you my personal assurance, this starts tonight. This starts tonight, and we're going to make the Public Service Commission accountable. Now there's always a Chinese wall between the Public Service Commission and the legislature. We created that many, many decades ago, so we didn't have the legislature setting parity rates. Probably necessary. Well, they're somewhat autonomous. But the one thing they don't like is us dictating and meddling in their affairs. And that day is coming, and this is not settled by January of next year when we go in session, or we will settle this. We will settle this, because there are many of us that think the Public Service Commission ought to be elected. This is just the beginning. They can solve this. A general investigation needs to be open, and that's what I'm requesting. They have a complete battery of professional staff in the Consumer Advocates Division of the Public Service Commission. They are there, and their job is to look into this to see what's wrong, instead of each one of you individually suffering through this. That needs to happen, and that's what I formally want to request. But thank you all for coming tonight, and thank the NAACP for
Okay. I'm going to get to close show. Oh, are you going to speak? You said you weren't going to, but I would love for you to. Please. Please. I'm still going to get along.
Actually, patients, I said I'd rather hear from others than to hear from politicians, and I got that opportunity. I just want to echo again the thanks for you to come out and share this. Of course, the other legislators have outlined a plan of action, and we're definitely going to follow through with that. But the part that disturbs me, and I've had some wars, as far as wars with the PSC and also the energy company, patients notice can say with the PAD, because we've gotten some legislation passed that pretty much turned PAD in a non-profitable aspect for that company, and therefore they stopped coming through this area. And so we were able to accomplish that for a while back. The issue I thought was resolved pretty much back then in the sense that they were humbled in the sense of how they treat people, particularly when they actually got beaten at the legislative level, when they had all the powerful lobbyists and the money, and they were fighting a ragtag patriot group from the Eastern Panhandle and thought they were going to beat us, and they didn't. It was truly a David and Goliath situation where Goliath fell. However, what I've heard tonight is disturbing because they've not learned their lesson of humility. They still treat you, and I think the one lady that said it best is, I never really felt vulnerable, but now I feel stepped on. I feel ignored. I feel put off the side, marginalized. And where do I go for justice? Well, that's what we're here for. We have to make sure that you get your justice. And regardless of what the issue is, or even the question you have the right to receive an answer to that question. And it's not logical. Matter of fact, my wife talked to her this morning as she was going off to school, and I told her I'm going to be coming here this evening, and she said, well, you know what? We just got a $325 bill, and we've only been $120 for each month, and what's going on here? Boy, she just started chewing up on me, and I heard her story. It took a little longer than what she had took more than 3 minutes, trust me, on her story. This is a systematic structural problem that's occurred, and also I think of disrespect that the company has demonstrated to this area. And as Senator Snyder and the others have mentioned, that needs to stop and stop now. As far as there needs to be explanations in regards to why they estimate the way they do, logical in the sense they need to take the time to explain that to each of us on that so that we know that what we're paying is truly the true bill of what we're paying. Because right now we have no idea. They can charge us anything they want, and how do we dispute it? I mean, that's what you indicated to us. How do you fight this? You can say, they say to you, if you don't pay, they cut your electric off. Well, what's the recourse? Well, you go to the Public Service Commission, and they don't even return your calls. They don't even respond to you. And so this is a vicious cycle that I think undermines the very notion of a democracy. And we need to do something about it. This Public Service Commission is not held accountable to anybody except for themselves, and that's been the problem all along. So we need to address that. We have advocates for us. The consumer advocate is within the Public Service Commission. They're the ones that hire the consumer advocate. So I'm just wondering how in the world can they advocate on behalf of us as consumers if their paycheck is getting from the very people that won't even be responsive to the people of this state in the first place. So again, I echo what the other legislators have indicated. I commit myself to this fight again. And this time, I'm just really hoping that this is the time that we can bring humility both to the Public Service Commission and also to First Energy. Thank you.
Now I get the last word, and I'm going to be brief. First of all, I really do thank all of the legislators, the commissioners, the representative from Senator Manchin's office who came and listened to us all tonight. And I appreciate that their eyes are opened and that they see the magnitude of the problem and the challenge. But I have to ask everyone in this room, everyone who is here tonight, to remember that what got them here was you. And so at the end of this evening, please don't think that you should just go home and now relax because the legislators are involved. Democracy doesn't work that way. That's one of the problems that we have had for too long, is that we elect somebody and then we say, okay, they'll take care of it. Well, they don't. They can't. They have to hear from all of us. I hope every single one of you signed up for an email. I don't know tonight what the next step will be, but I know there's going to be a next step. And we're going to need as many people as we had here tonight and hundreds or thousands more if we're really going to make this kind of a change. And if we're going to stop putting up with a company that clearly has no use for us except for how deeply they can dip into their wallets. Now, I too would like to thank the NAACP for their sponsorship, but I want to thank the Sierra Club for taking the lead on the Harrison plant transfer fight. I think that that's an important fight. It's part of this fight. And I want to thank my own group, the Coalition for Reliable Power, because we are trying to find ways to change West Virginia's attitude toward our electricity mix, however it happens. I don't care how much coal we use. But I think that we need variety, we need choice, and we need diversity just out of our own self-interest. So thank you all for coming tonight. If you have any questions, I'm sure we'll still be hanging around, and then I'm going to go to